pessoal, meu nome é Bernardo. Originally, I was going to talk about both of the solos of this song in one full video, but then I just thought it would be just maybe too long. That's what she said. So I then decided to just completely redo it all over again, and I'll do one video for the first solo, which is this one, and then another video for the second solo of Fooled Around and Fell in Love. That will be coming out next week. So just a bit of a heads up, it's actually good that I separate this a bit so you have time to learn the first solo properly, and then I can teach you the second one properly as well, while you know the first solo in the tip of your fingers. So without any further ado, let's dive into the first solo of Fooled Around and Fell in Love, the Winery Dogs version, of course. Okay, so here we are, up close and personal. So the first solo. If you are tuned into this video, you are probably already very familiar with the song. But just in a nutshell, at the time Richie Kotzen played fingerstyle exclusively, so that's why I don't have a pick. It's my preferred way of playing, but in the cover that I made and in the solo that I recorded again for the intro of this video, I wanted to keep things as faithful as possible to the original cover version of the Elvin Bishop song. And so Richie plays it fingerstyle. I tried playing these solos with a pick. It is a bit different, so I know maybe you are not very used to playing fingerstyle, but if you want to capture the sound as close as possible to how Richie plays it, I recommend you use your fingers. But if you are feeling too uncomfortable with that, just grab a pick and gradually try to exercise your fingers. So this first solo is the easier one from the both of them, like I told you before. It starts with a very typical easy pentatonic-like phrase. So if you know your pentatonic scales, like the figure that everyone knows, this has been played infinite times, and it always sounds good as long as you are not overly repeating yourself. So this is a very simple lick. You start on the 12th of the D, and then you go to the 10th of the G, and then you go back to the 12th again of the D string, like this. You do a bendy thingy, and then after this simple phrase you do like a super slow and as most expressive as you can do it bend on the 12th fret of the G string, and then you do a pull off and hammer on the between the 10 and the 12 on the G string. And then you pull off to the 10th fret to end the phrase. So it's like, if you want to practice just this, just do this like 5 minutes, 10, until you don't have any difficulty doing it. So it's like... Then you go to the 13th of the beat. So it's like you do a bend to reach this note. This solo is amazing to train your bends. It's probably the most expressive technique on the guitar, and it's one of the techniques that I love the most. So this would be like, after the bend you slide to the 15. Then you pluck the 13th fret of the high E string twice. And then to finish it, you play the 13th on the B and the 15th on the E. 13th on the E. And this part is a bit tricky, but it's like... 13, 15, with a bend, you release and go to the 13th, then again the 15th, and then out of nowhere you do a slide from the 13th of the B to the 15th, back to the 13th, and then you pluck the 15th again. So up until this point, what we got is the following. So if you want to pause the video and start practicing just these phrases, it's a good thing that you probably will do, because it's too much to try to assimilate this all at once. So from the point that we were, you just do a half step bend on the 15th. And then you finish the phrase like this. So a half step bend, you pull it off to the 13th. And then you do this kind of blue note thingy, like passage. So it's like 15th on the G. Then you go back to the 13th on the B. And then you descend again. But now you go to the 13th fret and you do this legato thing on the 14th from the 13th. And then you finish on the 15th of the G. So this phrase would be, which is a very cool phrase. And now it's probably my favorite phrase of the whole solo, which is something very chromatic, something very out there, and it's something that I would like to try and incorporate in my own playing. So this is like descending from the 15th to the 13th on the A string. And then you like release it and you come to the 11th and you slide to the 12th. Like this. It's very cool. You have these 5 notes in a short amount of time, and they all play really nicely with each other. Then you finish with the 15th on the D. And you go back and forth. And then to finish this phrase, you do this bend on the 13th fret of the G string, which wraps things up very, very nicely. So this whole second part of the solo is like... like that. Let me play it once again. So now I'm going to play the solo until this point, and you guys feel free to follow me if you want to. Now we're in the middle of the solo, and to change things up a bit, it goes like this. So once again, this is like a typical pentatonic type of lick. You start like literally from nowhere to the 12th fret of the D. Then you go to the 10th of the G and 12th of the G again. So it's like 12th, 10th, 12th on the G. And then you go to the 12th of the G. You pull it off to the 10th, and then you stop on the 12th of the D. And then after this, you do this bend on the 11th fret of the B string, as if you were to reach this note on the 13th fret. And then after that, when you go back from the bend, you do this legato kind of thing. So it's like on the 11th, then 10th when you, and then you hammer on the 11th and the 13th of the B string, like that. And then to finish this, you do a full step bend on the 12th fret of the D, and then you stop on the 10th. So once again. And then the phrase to end this whole thing. It's probably the trickiest one if you are playing fingerstyle, because it's the most different maybe from what you're typically used to doing with a pick. So this starts on the 12th of the D. You do pull off to the 10 and a hammer on to the 12th again. Then you go to the 10th of the G. Then you do a bit of a string skipping and you go to the 12th of the A. And then you do this. You start on the 12th of the A. You pull off to the 10th and then you slide to the 8th. So pull off from the 12th to the 10th to the 8th, then to the 10th of the low E. And then you hammer on from the 8th to the 10th of the A. And you slide from the 10th to the 12th, and you do a slide back and forth between the 12th and the 13th fret of the A. So this phrase is like slower. And now it reaches the final part of the solo, which starts on the 10th fret of the A. You do a hammer on to the 12th, and then you go to the 10th of the D. And then after this you go to the 13th of the B, 10th, then 10th of the G. You can do this back and forth between the 13th and the 10th of the B and G. Then you go to the 10th of the B and 9th of the G. So it's like. Then you do like a slidey thing until the 13th again of the B. Then you go to the 12th of the G and 13th of the D. So from this, you do like a slide from nowhere to the 12th of the G. And you do it twice on the 12th. And on the 3rd, you do a hammer on to the 14th. And then you go to the 13th of the B. And from the 13th of the B, you do a hammer on to the 15th. And then you end on the 13th of the E. So it's like. And now to end the whole solo beautifully, you just do this F power chord on the 13th fret of the E. So now I'm going to do the whole solo really slowly for you guys to accompany me. I hope this wasn't too confusing, but I'm going to play it really slow now for you guys to try and learn it in the context. So that has been the Got Riffs lesson on the first solo of Fooled Around and Fell in Love, the Winery Dogs version. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please feel free to tell me in the comments if I'm doing a good job teaching you, if there is something that I have to improve on, some concepts that maybe you want to know a bit more of that I would possibly try and teach you better. Just write everything in the comments. I'll be sure to answer to each and every one of your comments and try to improve based on them. So yeah guys, please subscribe to the channel and ring the bell. I have videos out every Friday, but just for you to be aware when they are actually out and you be on top of them and you can start watching them straight away. Please also follow me on my Instagram. I'm posting stuff over there all the time. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Next week I'm going to have the second solo of the song. It's a bit more difficult, but I'm sure that you guys will learn it over time. Just start working on this one first and then you will be a bit more prepared for the second one. So I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you next week. Until then, take care and bye bye.